Okay, I'll start recording. And for the record, I do have your permission, correct, to record this conversation. Very good. Awesome.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another Young Entrepreneur Building the Future of Business. And today we have a especially important and interesting topic of conversation for the entrepreneur in general, but especially, in my opinion, for young entrepreneurs who are just starting their entrepreneurial journey. And as we've seen, in the, oh gosh, it's been going on for a long time, but especially in recent events, we have seen the involvement of young people in advocacy. So how do we connect advocacy to entrepreneurship? And that is our topic for today. And before we go any further, I'd like to introduce myself. And I am Sulma, Global Coach Lead for Vino Vision, which is a hands-on activity-based coaching program. And today I have with me our co-host Juliana, who is our in-house young entrepreneur extraordinaire, and also Brandy Morgan, who is a certified master life coach and very much involved in advocacy as well. So thank you both for being here today with me and holding this space and talking about advocacy and entrepreneurship. So with that, Juliana, would you like to introduce yourself and share more about you and what you do in your business and what you do in the entrepreneurial space?
Yeah, so my name is Juliana Scheidhauer. I'm the owner of Reimagine Resources, and I own a company that does online resale and just like online business, but also locally. So we are very values driven. So this topic here is very important to me and my business. As we expand our business, our vision is to instill values and to promote advocacy. And what we're doing, whether we're small or we continue to grow. I think it's important to do at any stage of business that you're at. So yeah, that's just a little bit about me. We're super glad here to have Brandy.
Absolutely. Welcome, Brandy.
I appreciate it. My name is Brandy Morgan. As Zumla had mentioned, I am a master life coach. I tend to focus on empowerment and advocacy. I have a strong passion and desire to advocate for the things that I believe in and show people how to do the same. So thank you for that opportunity.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you for being here with us. And I can personally say by getting to know you, knowing your past experience and what's led you to advocacy, I'm just really touched and impressed because, the saying goes that life doesn't happen to you, it happens through you, or it happens for you. And I do believe that you are an absolutely excellent example of that. How do you take, and the saying as well, right, is you turn lemons into lemonade. So today we're gonna get to know what all is in your lemonade. And so thank you for being here. As I mentioned, going through your experience and what's led you to advocacy, I find that advocacy can be compared to some of the things that are happening in the coaching industry, where anyone really can call themselves a coach, right? And you may have skill sets of a coach, but are you duly prepared? Are you fully informed to call yourself an advocate? And that's very important to me because I believe in the power of intention, and intention is amazing until you don't know how to turn that intention into action. And that's where holding the space, having these conversations is just so important, because we have those who are so passionate, which is something that you're passionate about, Brandy, talking about the passion within advocacy. And then really being able to lead someone down the path, down the road, into really fully integrating what's important about advocacy. Again, we are our best advocates personally because we know ourselves the best. But then if we wanted to take it to that next level, what do we need to do? So let's get started with that. Please tell us, what is an advocate?
So the Oxford Dictionary defines an advocate as a person who publicly supports or recommends a particular cause or policy. I personally feel that it goes much deeper than that. I've always kind of been that person that related to the underdog, the people that are less fortunate, that don't necessarily have the means to help themselves. What really got me into the advocacy space is when I myself was experiencing such things as like homelessness with my son and not having the right avenues of support to get me through that experience and on to the next. I really had to learn how to advocate for myself. So it was me seeing that there was a need for myself and then doing the research to fill that need and make sure that I was getting the assistance that I required. So being an advocate is not just supporting some. You could support your friend. Your friend can open a business and you could say, "Hey, I support you. I think that's a great idea." But advocacy takes it to that next step. What can we do to support that cause? What can we do to ensure that that cause is being made aware of and that it's gaining the support that it requires to move forward? One of my main topics of advocacy that I absolutely love is sickle cell anemia. I had a best friend of a little over 18 years who passed from a sickle cell crisis. And at that time, I wasn't entirely aware of what sickle cell was. So from the moment he passed away, I decided to advocate for sickle cell. I obtained as much knowledge as possible to the point where I became a California State certified sickle cell educator. I input myself into the community. I spoke with people who had sickle cell. I spoke with providers who did medical services for individuals with sickle cell. And I asked them, what was the need in that community? How can I help raise awareness for sickle cell? And that is what started my advocacy journey.
Oh, that's wonderful. And, something that I find quite interesting is that, again, that passion and intention may derive and come from a personal experience, right? Something that we've gone through. And then we're talking about what's really a true advocate. And that is in showing that further interest, right? It's the passion plus the action. So further interest into taking the steps you just described for us. For me, I can relate to that in the sense of, being a young child and being brought to America, and so being an immigrant child. And when I looked at the news of what was going on with immigrant children, those are things that I can relate to. However, if I were to, head in the direction of advocacy for children, I will need to update myself because my, 30-year-old experience, it is purposeful, but it's no longer as valid because times change, right? So making sure that we understand what advocacy is, but also staying current, whether that's, like you mentioned, going out into your community and asking, what do I need to do, right? How do I need to inform myself? What kind of actual action steps would you need me to take on?
So the best thing that I could suggest is really taking some time to ask yourself some personal questions. What causes are you passionate about? What can I personally do to help that particular cause? What has already been done? And how can I add value to that? How can I build upon that experience and add value to it to increase the likelihood of the advocacy? And ultimately, what outcome are you trying to produce through your advocacy efforts? Are you just trying to raise awareness? Are you trying to gain funding? Are you trying to get a program implemented through law, through support, through policy support? These are all questions that if you're interested in advocating that we should all really ask ourselves and find the answers to before taking those next steps into action.
Yeah, very good. Can you expand more on the different types of advocacy?
Absolutely. So I do have a little list because I know them, but defining
Yeah.
them is a whole different story.
Okay.
So I've kind of broken it down into 4 different primary forms of advocacy, right? So there's self advocacy, which is when a person takes action on behalf of themselves in regards to their views or their interests. So when I was experiencing homelessness with my son, the advocacy that I was using was self advocacy. I was teaching myself how to get myself out of that situation, and then was able to share that experience and information with others facing similar situations.
Lost. Can you hear us? We've lost your sound. We lost your sound. Okay. Okay.
Okay, can you hear me now? I'm going to try to
Yes.
put off.
Yes, yes, there we go.
We can hear you now.
Okay. I'm a,
I was like, no, this was so good. There you go.
Okay, how is this?
That's better.
Yeah.
Much okay,
Good.
thank you. So self-advocacy, like I was saying, is something that I did for myself when I was experiencing homelessness with my son. I was able to share the information and knowledge that I obtained to help other people pick themselves up out of similar situations and build upon that information for their own personal use. Then there's group advocacy. So that's when there's a particular group or community, such as sickle cell, in which you take action on behalf of that group in order to influence public opinion. So sickle cell anemia is one of the largest affected communities in the United States for hemoglobinopathy, but people rarely hear about it. It affects over 100,000 people a year in the United States alone. And a common misconception is that it just affects the African American or African descent community, but that is far from the truth. There are Caucasians, Mediterraneans, Asian communities, Hispanic communities. It has no limit as to who it can reach and who it can affect. And sickle cell developed as a mutation against malaria. A lot of people aren't aware of that. So it's really taking that time. If you're really passionate about something and you really care, you're going to take the time to learn about it. You're going to take the time to share whenever you have that opportunity, because you want better for whatever you're advocating for, right? Then we go into peer advocacy, which is when you work one-on-one with another individual who has had similar experiences or disabilities or trainings that require a more personal level of support through advocacy. And that's kind of what we do as coaches, right? We work one-on-one with individuals and we help them build better habits, lifestyles, and thought formations for themselves and those in their circle. And then last but not least is system advocacy, which has to do with like legislation and policy practices. Its main focus is based on influencing and changing systems to help improve opportunities and outcomes for the betterment of society. So it could be any type of community that is requiring some sort of political policy support, right? So the LGBTQ plus community, that's something that we've seen a lot of systems advocacy in. So those are the examples of the 4 main types of advocacy that you can generally see. Oh, you're on
You're
mute.
on mute now.
Yeah.
there's some work being done outside. So I just didn't want to, okay. Thank you for letting me know. So we've definitely gotten a feel of what you're passionate about, right? What it is that that intention has led you to action and finding out more and what you can do and the difference between types of advocacy as well. And so I'd like to ask Juliana, in her personal entrepreneurial journey as a young person, as a young being, what can you share with us about what you've seen out in entrepreneurship as a young person, but also on a personal level? What type of advocacy do you feel more drawn towards?
Yeah, so I think, Brandy, first off, I think that was a good definition that you had about advocacy and how it's very action oriented. And then Zoma, I think your relation with personal experience really, I think, was enlightening, because it is really true that our personal experience shapes what we're passionate about and what we're, advocating about, even if it's, an important subject to other people or in the world or the culture. If it's not personal to you, then it has a little bit less weight. Even though it's important, it's still not, it doesn't hit that emotional aspect of it. Like cancer is a very important thing to learn about, to be an advocate for, but if it hasn't affected you personally, you probably aren't going to be an advocate for it. So yeah, I think for me, drawing on that personal experience, I think, I guess maybe it's personal experience and interest. For me, it's, I guess, a lot about, really just helping people who are, who need help. And so more specifically, I think for me, it's helping women. And, sex trafficking was a big topic that I learned about when I was younger. And that is something that I feel passionate about helping with. So I help with, training and self-defense for those kinds of women. And it's called a program called Date Safe. And I'm just an instructor for them to help them learn how to do basics of self-defense. And so, yeah, I think that's important to me. Out in the world, I think, other things that people are passionate about is the cultural things. Definitely racial equality is a big one. And for me, that's important as well. Just, being a minority, it's important, to advocate for that and to see that and to recognize that. And again, that affects me personally. And, women in business, that's important to me because I'm a woman in business. So yeah, again, it's important because it's, personal. Yes, I think that's, a lot of things that young people are, passionate about today, is things that either their friends have been a part of or affected by, or themselves have been affected by, or a family member. And so, that brings about more advocacy for those certain causes. And you see young people wanting to make a difference in the world today. And, they do that through, being part of legislation pushes or just awareness, promotion to other businesses, online promotion. So I think there's a lot of ways that young people today are very, very passionate about and, want to make a difference. And I think they are. So.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. Go ahead, Brandy. I think you have something to say.
Say, like, you hit a couple of nails on the head, Juliana, and my hat's off to you. And it is important to find that connection with advocacy. Like you were saying, the things that you find important are the things that you tend to advocate for. And there's lots of room for young entrepreneurs to come in and kind of start their own advocacy in the entrepreneurial space. You don't have to have your own business in order to advocate. You could be working for a corporation or an organization and see a gap that needs to be filled, and use your advocacy skills to help fill in that gap or bridge that gap.
Wow, I just had a moment where I went back to the theme, right, or to the topic of our conversation today, which is about connecting advocacy to entrepreneurship. So I have one last question for today because we are running out of time, but I'm going to ask this question. We can talk about it, wrap up, and then next week, we'll be touching on more details as to, because I feel like we've laid the foundation, right, for what advocacy is really about, and getting to know more, but then its relationship with ourselves as well and what we can do with it. But then more detail as to how to bridge the gap, which is what you just mentioned, right? So we have connection and even reconnection, because at some point we may have felt very passionate about something and we've lost track of that. So perhaps connection, reconnection. And the most important thing for us right now would be is identifying what does that gap look like right now, right? How can we bridge it? How can we create this bridge between advocacy and entrepreneurship?
Juliana, would you like to respond?
Yeah, so I think that last question was the gap between it. So I think, bridging that gap is, I think a lot of young people are seeing what to do, and there's a lot of different programs and things out there. So I think, being aware of it, again, like, Brandy was saying, get informed about it. And then there's so many organizations out there that they have an action plan. So, get involved, reach out to them. Yeah, so be aware, get involved, and then, continue to advocate that, in your business. And I think sometimes people think, oh, like my business is small, when I get bigger, then I will help. But I think it's important to do that at the beginning, at the very beginning, with whatever you have. Like, you can still give to people, you can still be generous, you can be aware of the things that you're passionate about, because it infuses the DNA of your culture as a business and what you stand for. So I think it's very important to be able to give and to advocate from wherever you are, at whatever time and space you're at, just to be able to, it's more of a mindset, I think. And it doesn't matter if you have a lot of stuff or if you have a lot of things or a lot of education, but to do what you can do makes a difference, and it makes a difference when other people see that. I think that's really important for young entrepreneurs.
I absolutely love that, Juliana, because when you were speaking before, one of the things my mind went to was the fact of, like you said, your why, right? Going back to that basic question, why am I doing what I do? In advocacy, if it's a business or a young entrepreneur or any entrepreneur really, am I in it for the benefits, right? Am I in it for what I get back versus like what you said, don't wait till you are successful, become successful because of what you do within advocacy for your business and for your community. And we go back to something that I wanted to share today before we wrap up. And this is a poem that Brandy, was it a poem that shared with me? And
Yes.
it's titled Soul Searching. I was going to read it, but I just, and I am putting her on the spot. I don't know if you have it handy to where you can have access to it, but I'd love for you to read it. It's called just titled Soul Searching. And I think it's a great way to finish our conversation for today, because we go back down to our why. Why do we do the things we do? Why are we passionate about what we're passionate about, and how we turn that intention that we draw from passion into action. And this is Brandy's. And so we said we'd get to know what was in her lemonade.
Okay, I have it pulled up.
Great.
Soul Searching by Brandy M. Morgan. I search to find what I cannot see, It is the light and the darkness that lies inside of me. I want so bad to discover who I am, but the voice inside of me keeps telling me that I can't. He's strong and malicious. He's a strong and malicious kind of man. He tries to detour me in any way that he can. I fight and I toil till I have no fight left. He laughs as I struggle to take a deep breath. My spirit leaves me because it cannot stand to fight. I persuade it to come back, but it takes me all night. Why do you leave me? I ask in mid-flight. It answers with, "This is not my plight. You cannot find what you cannot see. I am not what you make me out to be. There is so much more inside of me that you must discover who you want to ultimately be. There is no hurry to complete your journey. Take your time because in this life, what is inherently yours is also mine."
Very good.
So we're all in it together. And something I always say is together we are better, right? And so when we come together to find ways to advocate, yes, it comes from personal experience. It has a direct impact and effect on ourselves. But what do we do with that? Do we just keep it and let it be that, or do we want to do more? And so thank you so much for sharing with us everything you have today. And I look forward to our meeting in a couple of weeks where we can go into more detail, right? How do we actually put everything we talked about into action, and perhaps even share some more examples of how others can do that.
All right.
Thank you,
Thank
Brandy.
you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks.
You as
Okay,
well.
bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Hey there.
Hey.
Let me stop recording.